I'm Bev Adamczyk, the Voter Service Chair of the League of Women Voters of Lake Forest, Lake Bluff area, and I heartily welcome you to this forum for the candidates seeking office of the City of Lake Forest Mayor. Tonight's forum is being recorded for rebroadcast. The League of Women Voters, now in its 103rd year, stands firm in its mission of empowering voters and defending democracy. We accomplish our mission through forums like this and through voter education and registration events held throughout the year. As a nonpartisan, inclusive organization, our membership is open to all and includes individuals of all genders, ages, and political affiliations. For more information about membership, stop at the league table today or visit our website, lwvlflb.org. We encourage you to join us. The League does not support or oppose candidates or parties and believes that meeting and questioning candidates is of the highest importance. Today, we're fortunate to be joined in this activity by our forum moderator, Kathy Tate Bradish, and is in keeping with League policy, Kathy does not reside in Lake Forest and is not a voter in the city. Kathy has been a member of the League of Women Voters of Evanston since 1988. She's served as president and held most board positions. She's currently the president of Evanston Lighthouse Rotary Club. Kathy's the co-founder and executive director of the ABCs of Sex Education, Kufanya Waamuzi Bora, which means making wise decisions. It's an international NGO based in Kenya, which trains rural Kenyans to teach HIV prevention, early pregnancy prevention, and comprehensive sex education in their own communities. She typically spends 1 to 2 months a year in Kenya. Kathy's a graduate of the University of Illinois Urbana-Champaign and of Northwestern University School of Law. She's taught middle and high school in Austria, the US, Germany, and the UK. And so without further ado, I would like to turn this forum over to Kathy Tate Bradish.
Thank you so much. It is, before I even start, I like that because then I don't have to count on it at the end. So as you've heard, the mission of the League of Women Voters is really to encourage an engaged and informed electorate, and here you all are. So mission partially accomplished at least, and we're going to have an interesting forum tonight. It will go quickly. Your candidates have told me that they recently had a forum where they had a lot more time than we're giving them tonight, but tonight we're going to try to get through as many questions as possible. The candidates have all agreed to the rules I'm about to give you, and it was also agreed that they'll be speaking in alphabetical order. Sometimes we draw numbers. So I used to say, please silence your beepers, but please don't embarrass yourselves later. Check your phones right now, and you know you're a little anxious, so double check it just to be sure. The forum is being taped. It will be available in its entirety. I hope at the end of this forum somebody will be able to come up here and tell you exactly where you'll be looking for that. So we would appreciate it if you don't take photos and video yourselves. It just tends to be a little bit disruptive to other people. No campaign paraphernalia in the room. I think somebody took care of that out there because we like to keep it a nonpartisan space, almost sort of like when you go to the voting booth. Each candidate will have 1.5 minutes for their intro, or as I like to say, 90 seconds. They have 1 minute for each question, and their summary is 1.5 minutes. The timekeepers are going to show a 1 minute and or a 30-second, depending on how long they have. The candidates know that it's their job to look at the timekeepers. Timekeepers, wave your hands. Yeah. Thank you. It's a very aggravating job. Stopwatch doesn't work for me and stuff, so I appreciate them particularly. At the stop, they'll put the sign up, and just because the stop sign is up, it does not mean that the speaker is in trouble yet. But if they try to draw a deep breath and, forget all about the rules of run-on sentences or something, I might have something to say, and the timekeeper will stand up. So we're really going to race through this as best we can. Then, also for time, save all of your applause for the very, very end. Every candidate who tosses their hat in the ring, especially these days, really deserves our utmost respect, so obviously also not boos. And if you do that, you're going to just embarrass your own candidate because we'll be able to figure out who's doing that. So none of that. We'll have none of that. I'd expect none of that, of course, but I have to say it. So some questions have already been gathered online. Many of you may have seen that opportunity already. I would hope it goes without saying, but of course they've not been submitted to any candidate in advance. If you'd like to ask a question and you don't already have a card, put your hand up. Someone will bring you a card and a pencil. If you've written a question and you want it to be retrieved, hold the card up. Did I say hold your hand up first? Hold the card up. They'll come and get it. In the league, we call those the card runners, and after every certain number of questions, they'll take off back there. And behind the mystery curtain, we have what we call card sorters. They're all members of the local League of Women Voters, so they know the local issues, which I do not. And they will be checking for appropriateness of level of office. So we might all be dying of curiosity of what your mayoral candidates think about the war in Ukraine, but don't waste your question on that. It has to be legible, please. It's very, very likely that someone will have asked a similar question, maybe worded differently, maybe they'll get combined together. So you might hear your question, but not worded in the same way. No personal attacks, of course, they won't even make it up to me. They need to be capable of being answered by all of the candidates. And then every once in a while, they'll have them sorted and bring me some more. I am starting with some online questions, and we'll get to the ones from you right after that. We never get all of them answered, I promise you. There's a very high percentage likelihood that if you asked a question, it won't be answered, and all three candidates have told me that they are very, very happy to stay till the end. They're going to address their answers to you, not to each other, and it is extra, extra hard to not applaud your candidate when they give their opener, but I have faith in you. So there's not going to be any applause till the very, very end. And I just forgot to do one extremely important thing, which I'm going to do right now. I usually do that at the start. Really, literally, we moderators parachute in and hope we get the names right most of the time. So we're going to, with no further ado, Ms. Beidler will give her opening first, 90 seconds, and she will keep an eye on the timekeeper.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you so much to the League of Women Voters of Lake Forest and Lake Bluff for hosting tonight, and thank you all for being here. It's a pretty impressive crowd. Thank you for being here. I'm so excited to be talking with you. In my decades of service as a teacher and a nonprofit leader, I have found listening to be the cornerstone of success. As an alderman, I serve the people of Lake Forest by listening, bringing people together, and getting things done. I've taken on leadership roles and worked collaboratively with my colleagues, business leaders, and the people of Lake Forest to forge important public-private partnerships, which helped raise over $8.5 million. As an alderman, I chaired the Welcome Home campaign, which helped encourage 1,500 families to move to Lake Forest. When we faced a third rail on the west side, as an alderman, I visited people's homes. I listened to what they had to say, and I saw how their quality of life was being impacted. It hardened my resolve to stand with those residents. Critical issues will come before our city going forward. One is development, which must be looked at from the lens of both historic preservation and keeping this a thriving, vibrant community. Second is public safety, including freight rail safety. Third is advocating for transparency and making sure residents have more opportunity to participate in city government. Finally, the stewardship of city finances will remain a top priority. I'm committed to working collaboratively as we face these crucial city matters. Please consider voting for me. I want your input and ideas. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Hamann.
Paul Hamann. The three reasons why I'm running for mayor No more artificial turf fields, including at the high school. Number 2, reduce the unfunded pension liabilities. And 3, save all trees. What I've learned in the mayoral race is saving money in Lake Forest appears to be an extremely low priority. One resident I was talking with had just under $1 million at Northern Trust, receiving no interest in a checking account. I told that person that a 13-week treasury with very little risk was yielding 4%, which means $400,000 in lost interest each year. I was totally blown away that someone would leave $40,000 a year on the table, or about $109 per day of easy money slip through their hands. Obviously, a simple telephone call to the banker and the person would have an extra $40,000 a year of spending money. If people don't care about $40,000 in lost money on a risk-free investment on their savings, they don't really care about the $50 million plus in the unfunded pension liabilities. Plus, the bank accounts are only insured to $250,000, where treasury bills are 100% insured by the government. So I'm a lifetime resident of Lake Forest, a registered professional engineer. I have spent the past 40 years trading commodities.
Thank you. Mr. Tack.
Good evening, and thank you for coming tonight. I'm happy to have the opportunity to speak with all of you about my credentials, goals, and aspirations for the city of Lake Forest. I'm particularly enthusiastic about the opportunity to speak to those of you who don't know me or think that you won't vote for me. I believe that if you listen to what I have to say, that your mind may change. I'm a 30-year resident of Lake Forest. My entire career as an orthopedic surgeon has been spent in this community. In my business career, I've served as IBJI board member and managing partner. My service to the city has included 6 years as 3rd Ward Alderman, chairman of the Public Works and Fire Services Committee. Most recently, I served as chairman of the Central Business District Working Group. Tonight, I stand before you as the only candidate selected by the 88-year-old Lake Forest caucus. I am here because I was asked to serve. I was selected based on my public and private experience, as well as my critical thinking, problem solving, and responsible decision-making skills. In my time as alderman, I led many initiatives that have made the city stronger, including tax relief, stabilization of water revenues, and most critically, stabilization of pension liability payments. It is my hope that what you learn tonight will allow you to share the confidence expressed in me by the caucus, such that you will select me to be the next mayor of Lake Forest.
Thank you. So folks in the back, how are we? Do we need to move mics a little bit closer, or can you wave if you hear everybody beautifully? Okay, hands down. I shouldn't have asked that first, because what do I care? Wave if you don't hear it very well, and we should be louder. All right, it's kind of an accommodation, so maybe everybody pull your mics a little bit closer. If just a few people are having trouble, we're going to do that. So thank you so much. Now, you'll see I'm going to rotate through so we don't just do, it will be the same order, but anyway, you'll see. In 3 minutes, you'll get the gist. So Mr. Hamann takes our first question first, 60 seconds. What is your vision of the role of mayor of Lake Forest?
I've lived in Lake Forest all my life. I want to make it a better city. Every day will be different. As far as Barack Obama used to say, by the time the problem gets to your desk, there are no easy answers. My primary goal is to reduce the unfunded pension liabilities. My objective is to reduce that by $1 million every month, so at the end of 4 years, we'll have a completely balanced budget. As far as city staff, we have 200 people working. There's no way I'll be involved as far as with every decision, but I'm planning to spend 18-hour days at the city trying to make this a better place to live. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tack.
The mayor of Lake Forest is not a primary policymaker. He is basically an intermediary between the professionals, city manager, city staff, and the volunteers who actually do the work running our government. The city council is predominantly responsible for policy and decision making, so much so that in fact the mayor, if city council meetings are run well, almost never votes. He would only vote in a tie. The mayor is essentially like a conductor of an orchestra. He's not the performer. The mayor has a role of setting the agenda for the city council, preparing the fact set on which the city council makes decisions, and then implementing the guidance of the city council.
Thank you. Ms. Beidler.
Thank you. So I think a mayor has a number of jobs. A couple of them have already been referenced. There are certainly, the mayor is the leader of the team, which includes the city council. And that team is also the city staff. And so the mayor needs to understand that certainly the city manager and mayor work very closely together. And as Dr. Tack said, the setting of an agenda, which is very important to determine what's going to happen at a meeting and who is going to be making what presentations and so forth. So there's some formal responsibilities, certainly knowing how to run a meeting. I might say this is something I've had a lot of experience doing, having chaired 10 boards in my life, and so I do know a lot about running a meeting, and keeping the meeting running smoothly is very important. I think being welcoming to the people who come and speak at city meetings, to the residents, is also important. But I think there's some other responsibilities as well in terms of the mayor certainly setting a tone at the meetings. But I think the mayor is visible in the community in other regards and sets a tone for the entire community in terms of civility and engagement. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tack is going to take this question first, but I'm just going to interrupt us for a second. Coats in your laps. Put your hand up if there's an empty seat next to you. We've got like 20 people standing in the back. Folks, come on down. It's annoying to have you back there, and the fire marshal will shout at me. Come on, come on, come on. Come on down. Put your hand up. I'm looking at people with an empty seat next to them without their hands up. Thank you. Not meaning to shame anyone, but looking right at you. Come on down, come on down. Folks. All right. Keep coming, keep coming. Thank you, brave person. Right down to the front row. We're looking at the A student in high school. All right, everybody, here we go. Don't complain to me later. Mr. Tack is going to take this question first, and actually, timekeepers, would you go back to 1:30, which is, we understand that the length of time is laughable for some of these questions, right? But I'm going to add an extra 30 seconds because I have two almost identical questions, and I'm always happy to repeat as well. So this goes to Mr. Tack first. The Lake Forest Central Business District is currently updating its comprehensive plan. What is your vision of the growth of the Lake Forest Central Business District? Please be specific and reference character, retail, restaurants, housing, parking lots, and pedestrian use. And similar question, please provide specific examples of what new businesses and new developments you want to come. So there you go, 90 seconds. Start.
Yeah, interesting time to answer the question, seeing as I just finished chairing a committee that spent 3 months trying to answer those questions to some extent. So development is not something that is specifically determined by a mayor. In fact, the mayor has essentially no influence over what development will occur. The development that will occur in Lake Forest in the next 10 years will occur as a result of empty storefronts, obsolete buildings, and need to sustain vibrancy within the central business district. The plan that was presented to or that will be presented to the Plan Commission that the CBD Working Group came up with tried to create a concept on which the city can build that will encourage developers to seek opportunities here that are compatible with our history and our architecture and our culture. We do surveys and people all the time would like more restaurants. The reality is that in order for restaurants to come, there have to be opportunities and business to be had. The city can create an opportunity for developers to be interested, for small businessmen and entrepreneurs to open businesses here, but we don't actually create the development ourselves.
Thank you. Ms. Beidler.
Thank you. So we know that development is absolutely critical in a thriving community, and we need to, in the Central Business District, this is one of the most important parts of town. It's quite large. I'm sure some of you have seen how big an area this encompasses, and it certainly features some of our most remarkable architecture in Lake Forest. There's no question that Market Square and the environs there are significant in our community, and even nationally, and even one could make a case internationally. So we have to have a process that's incredibly respectful of what's already here. There's no question about that. And I do think there are going to be opportunities. I certainly think there will be considerable development in the next few years. I don't think there's any question about that. I think we're looking at about a 10-year horizon to really be thinking about the development. I'm particularly concerned about how we do it. I want to be sure that we give plenty of time for community engagement. I want to be sure that we have professionals who work with historic architecture at the table. And I know that the Lake Forest Preservation Foundation came out today. I think there's some guidelines that you can read about in the patch that are quite specific about the things we need to do as we move forward with the Central Business District. And it will be interesting to see when the Plan Commission takes this on quite soon. But we need to get this right. It's hugely important to our community.
Thank you. Mr. Hamann.
I must be missing something, because to me, there are very little green fields left in downtown Lake Forest. But I do realize that most people are doing their retail online, thus restaurants are more relevant. I would defer more guidance from the Building Review Board, and I think Kathy Zernak is doing a fine job.
Thank you. Ms. Beidler takes this next question first. Back to 60 seconds. How can affordable housing be increased in the future to meet the city's goals?
So affordable housing is something that we have a commitment to as the city. There's no question about that, and it's something that the city does take very seriously. There are also state guidelines that inform that. So we need to be very careful in our development, that we are mindful of affordable housing going forward. City goals, I assume, means in terms of our own internal expectations for affordable housing. We've done, you may know that recently 12 new units were approved that are for senior housing. And one of the things that's most important to us here is to have people be able to remain in Lake Forest when they've been here for a long time. So I think that's very exciting. And the Housing Trust Fund is that we fund is also excellent in terms of keeping track of what might be available houses to renovate and make available, particularly to people who are not able to stay in the community unless they have a house that's not as highly priced.
Thank you. Mr. Hamann.
As far as the affordable housing, I was very disheartened to learn that we lost control of the land and the money. We gave it to a Libertyville charity. Maybe we don't have a problem today, but I envision in the future, maybe 5, 10, 15 years away, that if that Libertyville charity doesn't maintain the homes properly, that the city will have very little recourse. I would have rather seen the city team up with a church in town as far as getting them involved as compared to giving all of the money and land to a Libertyville charity. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Tack?
So first, I think it's important for people to know what affordable housing is in Lake Forest, because there's a lot of misconceptions about that. Basically, affordable housing in Lake Forest is for people within the community who meet a standard that's approximately 80% of the median income of our geographic area. It's distinctly separate from Section 8 housing, which is a voucher program. We don't actually have that in place in Lake Forest currently. We have approximately 135 affordable housing units that we rent or lease via community housing partners, and we have the the Affordable Housing Trust Fund. When we have development in town, a certain amount of those developments have to be allocated for affordable housing, or there has to be payment in lieu to the Affordable Housing Trust. So we have a very well thought out, well implemented plan here for how to address affordable housing.
Thank you. Now, Mr. Hamann takes this question first. There has been a North Shore Municipal Consortium studying the reduction and eventual elimination of gas-powered leaf blowers over the next 5 years. Do you think Lake Forest should ban gas-powered leaf blowers? Why or why not? Mr. Hamann first.
I'm for less regulation as far as I put the leaf blowers in the same category as the electric car. If you go back to 1901, the electric cars were 3 times more expensive in 1901, and 100 years later, the electric cars are around 90,000 and the gas are 30,000. So as far as the issue, as far as the top 20% of the population, they have no problem affording the electric cars. I'm concerned with the people that don't have that much disposable income. So as far as whether it's electric cars or electric leaf blowers, I'm for letting the residents make their own decisions. The facts are out there as far as let them make their own decisions. As long as the land survey.
Wow. I was a German teacher. Evidently, it has gone right along. Thank you. That was a wonderful full stop. Mr. Tack.
So when I was on city council, we actually had numerous discussions about gas and electric leaf blowers, as well as what time of day and what day of the week you were allowed to use them. I think this is a problem that solves itself over time. At the time we were discussing it 7 years ago, electric leaf blowers were relatively ineffective. Landscapers didn't want to use them. Homeowners didn't want to use them. Times have changed. People are now converting to them without government intervention, and there seems to be no need for that. I personally now have an electric leaf blower. I have gas cars, so for me, it's just a noise thing. I don't like the noise of the gas-powered leaf blowers, and the electric ones now work as well or better. So I don't think government needs to get involved in these sorts of things. This is taking care of itself.
Thank you. Ms. Beidler.
Thank you. I think that's probably, I would agree with a lot of what Dr. Tack said. I was involved in some of those same discussions that he's referring to in City Council. I think this issue comes up periodically. I don't agree that government shouldn't be involved. I do think this is something that citizens feel strongly about from time to time, not always continuously strongly, but it does come up periodically. And I think we need to have a mechanism for addressing it and for addressing people's concerns about it. My sense would be that it may come up again. I know we're about to be undertaking, I think the city's about to be undertaking another survey. This usually gets a pretty good response in the community in terms of number of people who weigh in. We may be able to find out more data that way. But my sense is that we will probably have to look at this governmentally and come to some conclusions. We've routinely seen it. We change the hours that it can be used and so forth. And I imagine that will probably happen again, and I would recommend that.
Thank you. Mr. Tack takes this next question first. With the recent City Council approval of the Deer Path Park synthetic turf fields, how do you think the increased traffic component and environmental safety issues should be managed?
The environmental safety issues, I think, are actually pretty well addressed by the project as it's been outlined and as I understand it. There was a great deal of concern for that issue, for drainage, for toxic chemicals that might be associated with such fields. My understanding is approximately $3 million of the $17 million cost of this project was allocated to make sure that this was an environmentally sound project. I think that being said, we will still have to monitor the results of those things. The proof is in the pudding, as they say. As far as traffic goes, Deer Path traffic is a challenge, mostly because of our schools and the fact that nobody lets their kids take the bus. Almost more concerned about that than I am about the athletic fields, but we'll have to monitor that.
Thank you. Ms. Beidler.
So there were traffic studies done as part of the project, as part of looking at the development of turf fields at Deer Path. There is a sense that there may need to be some particular adjustments made in terms of the traffic. We know that the traffic on Deer Path is particularly dramatic at the time that the school is the beginning and the end of the days. So, okay. I was waiting for the sound to stop. But
Sorry, I was looking at what I should ask for the next question.
Oh, okay. No.
My
I was
complete bad over
I
here.
was wondering if I should talk over the sound. So I think it is an issue. And it will have to be monitored as the project is completed. I think part of the project, an important part of the turf project, addresses the issues of the environmental impact. And that was taken into account. It was considered very, very carefully. There will be routine monitoring of various elements of the turf project, and also safety, the safety for the athletes who are playing on it. So I think both of those things, there will be regular monitoring. We'll expect to hear about that from the city. Thanks.
Thank you. Mr. Hamann.
Could you repeat the question?
Yeah, of course. With the recent City Council approval of the Deer Path Park synthetic turf fields, how do you think the increased traffic component and environmental safety issues should be managed?
So I believe the question is addressing the traffic. I guess the real issue on the table is the fact that so many parents drive their kids to school. When I grew up in Lake Forest, I know when I asked my mom to drive me to school, she said, "I'm not your chauffeur, go out to the corner." So I'm somewhat mystified by the fact that the high school charges for people to take the bus. I believe that with the decrease in the number of students from 1,800 down to 1,400, that savings as far as fewer teachers, they could pay for the buses so that the kids have the opportunity to go out to the bus stop and take the bus and reduce the traffic. Thank you.
Thank you. I think we might have a yes or no question here, unless you feel passionately about why. And just before that, I will say someone in the audience is looking out for the candidates, and I will say that the League never uses titles to avoid judge, senator, doctor, etc. So we're deliberate and not ignorant, just in case you were wondering. And so here we go. Maybe a yes and no. Ms. Beidler first. Would you promote putting information on the city website on safe gun storage awareness and how to obtain a firearms restraining order?
I don't mostly do yes or no questions quite that way. I don't know. I don't know if we have a precedent for that. I don't know that we have. I would want the decision about what goes on the website to be processed very carefully. I think this is not a subject that I'm an expert on. I would certainly, if I were trying to make a decision about gun storage, I'm not sure that necessarily I would expect the city website to give me that information. But I do believe that it's something that we would want to be very clear in terms of what our processing was to make that decision.
Okay, tried to save us a question, but I see I was very wrong. Mr. Hamann.
I have no problem with disseminating more information to the public, so I have no problem.
Thank you. Mr.
Can you read
Tack?
the question again, please?
Sure. Would you promote, sorry, I keep doing my P's right into the mic. Would you promote putting information on the city website on safe gun storage awareness and how to obtain a firearms restraining order?
I don't know that I would promote it, but I'm all for educating people on safe gun storage. I think that's fair enough and a reasonable expectation of the city to provide information. As far as the other one, the answer is no.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to read this question. Mr. Hamann is going to take it first. It's one of those you just don't want to be the first one. So I'm going to give you 15 extra seconds. So wave to me the 15 seconds before you have to start so you can think of a good example that makes you look good, maybe a little funny, and also answers the question. Describe a mistake you made in your professional life and the steps you took to correct that mistake. 15 seconds, and then Mr. Hamann takes it first. Describe a mistake you made in your professional life and the steps you took to correct that mistake.
I have too many mistakes I've made in my life.
Pick one. We're sitting on the edge of our seats.
The person who never makes mistakes probably gets tired of doing nothing. Thank you.
Clever. I'm going to take that answer. All right. Mr. Tack?
Well, I'm an orthopedic surgeon, and there are probably plaintiff's attorneys in the audience, so probably not best for me to identify too many mistakes that I've made. But in my professional life, I also had management responsibilities, and so I have had the opportunity to look back at decisions that I've made and decisions that I thought were well made and some that had negative consequences. I can think of one high-level human resource decision that I made to essentially rehire somebody that had left on bad terms, essentially giving that person a second chance and hoping that the result the second time was better than the first. It was not. And so I've learned that fact patterns are important in making decisions.
Okay. Ms. Beidler, I'm still waiting for some gossip here that we could use later.
I'm sorry. I don't think I'm going to meet that particular request. So most of my life has been as a volunteer. I was a Chicago public school teacher, and certainly, there were, assorted mistakes that happened in the classroom. I taught sixth grade, but I would, when I think about my career and when I think about professional things I've done, it would be in leadership positions on not-for-profit boards. And I can think of a couple of times in particular. So one of the delicacies, and I think this would also come up in the city council, because don't forget you're working with staff. So keeping that staff and board responsibility lines clear is very complicated. And I can remember early on in my tenure at the Chicago Community Trust, I was the board chair, and the CEO was also new. And an issue came up it was the first or the second meeting. And I needed to have stepped in sooner than I did when there was an issue with a staff person.
Thank you. Mr. Tack, you take this question first. If you are elected mayor, how will you select board and commission members? Will there be a public process to vet candidates?
I think the process for this is already quite well established. The vast majority of board and commission members are recruited and vetted by the Lake Forest Caucus. They have an 88-year history of doing this. They're extremely good at this. They then make recommendations to the mayor, who then gets to look at the recommended individuals, determine whether he feels or she feels that they meet the appropriate criteria for the positions they're nominated for, and the mayor actually nominates them. That being said, the city council is then responsible for validating those appointments. So I would not change the system. This has worked well for a long period of time. It's not imperfect, but I would reinforce it and maintain it.
Thank you. Ms. Beidler.
Yes, I would agree with that. The caucus has done a superb job of vetting people for boards and commissions. It's an astounding number. It's I think something like 150 and at least, and that means those are the appointees. So there need to be people vetted to fill those positions. This is a process that's worked for a long time. I see no reason to change it. So the process, as I understand it, just to be sure we get the language right on this, so the recommendations come from the caucus, who has vetted the various people for the various positions, and then they are brought to the mayor. The mayor looks over that list, and the mayor then makes the appointment, but it's ratified by the city council. So the city council weighs in. There's not generally discussion. I can't remember in any time that I was on city council having a mayor discuss the people who were being approved, but there was a process of ratification, and it's the caucus advising the mayor. These are mayoral appointments ratified by the council.
Thank you. Mr. Hamann.
There's only one change I would make. Currently, the city staff who are non-residents can tell the homeowners who pay property tax who may represent them. I applied for the code position. It was at Country Day. There were 6 people from each ward. All 24 approved me unanimously. But when it got to city staff said, we don't want the supervision of this individual, and they crossed my name off. So the only change I would make, have no problem with the caucus system, but I don't believe that city staff should be able to tell the residents who can represent them.
Thank you. Ms. Beidler will take this next question first, but I have seen 2 quick head drops in the audience. That's my litmus test. So we're going to take 15 seconds, and everybody who is able, just do some nice neck stretches. We only have 15 more minutes, folks, but come on, wake yourselves up. I need it too. Oh, and we, a card, folks, we've got a card. See that right in the middle there. Maybe you could pass it down? Thank you. Anybody else? We're squeaking in here, and I've got a stack, but if you ask a great question, it might come to the top of my pile. All right, here we go. Ms. Beidler, why is it important for city staff to have a strong working relationship with the mayor, and how do you plan to build such strong links?
So the most important relationship is between the mayor and the city manager. Now, I think everyone in this room knows that we have a city manager form of government, and it is really important to a city manager system for operating the city. So I think it's desirable for all of the city council members to have a good relationship with city staff. That's one of the things we want to both model to the community, and it's how we're going to function well as a city, no question about that. I think this relates to trusting each other. On a team, you want to be working with people that you trust and whose expertise you value. There is no question that the city council, we're volunteers, and many of the people on city council have other jobs that they're doing during the day. This would not be true in my case, but it is in a number of them. We count on the city staff to get the things done that need to get done. That's absolutely the way this works.
Thank you. Mr. Hamann.
Okay, the problem that I see is the issue of, let's take the July 4th music event. The question is how much to spend on the band. You can spend $3 million for the Rolling Stones, $300,000 for well-known, $30,000 or $3,000 for a band. I think the problem that the city staff has is everybody says, this is Lake Forest, we want the best. And I think that if we get more interaction with the mayor, with city staff, to make the decision and say, hey, a $30,000 band for 4th of July is fine. The issue is the ability for the residents to get together and meet each other like a block party and get along. And the problem right now is the city staff always believes that everybody wants the best and they want to spend the most. And I believe that you can balance the budget for the unfunded pension liabilities if you get more supervision between the mayor and city staff.
Thank you. Mr. Tack.
So the first thing to recognize, and I think that all of us do recognize this, is that we have an incredibly talented city staff in Lake Forest. These are people who could work many other places for higher salaries, quite honestly, but they stay here because they love their job. Part of the reason they love their job is because they are empowered to do their work. That empowerment comes from trust both between the staff as well as and the mayor and the staff. If the staff doesn't trust the mayor to back them up in their decision making and in their work, they won't perform at their highest level, they won't take the risk. If the mayor doesn't trust the staff, he can't empower them to work at the top of their skill set.
Thank you. Mr. Hamann takes this question first. What management and leadership experiences have you had in your life that will best prepare you to be mayor?
As far as management skills, I believe it relates back to my commodity trading. You're basically constantly taking information from all sources, friends, newspaper articles, and you're basically making a decision, trying to understand whether management is lying to the public. If you look as far as Walgreens was sued and they got a $100 million judgment because they said that the CEO was lying to the public. So as far as management styles, it's the ability to understand, listen, collate the information. Past 10 years, 779 trades, 100% profit. I believe that if I can beat Goldman Sachs every day on the trades that they can, because they have trade desks, I believe that I should be able to deal with the problems that the city has.
Thank you. Mr. Tack.
I'm going to ask you to read the question again.
Of course. What management and leadership experiences have you had in your life that will best prepare you to be mayor?
I've had a fair number of management experiences, both in the public and the private sector, as well as in my social life. I was president of the Lake Forest Club for a period of time. I was a managing partner at Illinois Bone and Joint and a board member. Illinois Bone and Joint Institute is several times the size of Lake Forest in terms of revenues. And on City Council, I had the opportunity to be chairman of Public Works and the Fire Services Committee. So all of those experiences have given me insight into many different aspects of public life and business management. I think all of them apply.
Thank you. Ms. Beidler.
Thank you. So I've done leadership in a variety of settings. I've done a fair amount of leadership actually within the city of Lake Forest. I certainly think actually the service on City Council is crucial to then being able to be able to lead the to operate as mayor and lead. When I was an alderman, I was chairman of some committees that I think were important in terms of the Welcome Home campaign, civic beautification, and those were definitely leadership opportunities. I've also had a number of leadership opportunities on public-private partnerships in Lake Forest, and the four that I served, we ended up, with help of other people, some of whom are in this room tonight, raising $8.5 million. That was money that would not have been there otherwise. And so I think that was a great opportunity to advocate for the city and do leadership. I've also served as board chair of 10 boards, and that's probably the most parallel leadership to what I would be doing as mayor.
Thank you. So looking at the time and backing up from 8:30, I'm about to ask the last question, and although I'm dying to learn about this third rail thing, I think I'm going to ask what is probably a bigger question, maybe not, yell at me later. How do you plan to keep property tax rates down with rising cost of pensions without increasing our taxes on our residential water bills? Mr. Tack.
Well, the way you keep property taxes down, and this gets broken up in two ways. There's the property tax rate and there's the property taxes you pay, and they're not the same thing. We have the lowest property tax rate in the area. We don't pay the lowest property taxes in the area because our homes are highly valued. You keep property taxes as low as you can by managing city finances appropriately. If we don't have to take out expensive loans, we will be able to keep taxes low. By being a AAA bond-rated community, which involves governance as well as revenue stream stability, we can borrow money at 2 to 3% when other people are borrowing it at 8 to 10%. So when projects need to be done, instead of going back to the taxpayer, we can frequently borrow money and get those projects done.
Thank you. Ms. Beidler.
Thank you. So one of the three of us, I think Dr. Tack wasn't available, but Paul and I were the other night at the city budget hearing. They invited the candidates to come and hear. And one of the things that was most interesting to me was the amount of money in our capital improvement budget that's coming now from grants. We've been doing much a better job as a city in getting grant dollars to meet some of our goals. And I know we have we're doing significant capital improvement work, which I think is all of you we're all thrilled to hear. This is one of the things Lake Forest does well, is plan carefully and funding the capital improvement. So I think that kind of thing, certainly, as Dr. Tack says, the fiscal management is key, and you expect that. There has been strong fiscal management of this city since it was founded in 1861, first incorporated in 1861, and it's a hallmark of what we do. We have to pay close attention to our finances.
Thank you. Mr. Hamann.
And people have always talked about many businesses with absentee ownership that have problems. To me, you need more supervision as far as by the mayor to get involved. And it's not that I don't like city staff. It's just the issue that you have to give them the guidance whether or not you want to spend $300,000 for a music concert or $30,000. You have to be there to help them out, and that way you, as far as me being the mayor, I would take the blame, and the city staff could all work on the details and perform what they're trying to do. So to me, it's not more supervision because they aren't qualified. It's just determining whether you want the Ferrari or just the Porsche.
And we end on a laugh. Very nice. So we're going to the closing statements now, 90 seconds each. We're going to do them in reverse order of the openers. So Mr. Tack goes first, 90 seconds.
In 1860, Abraham Lincoln was elected President of the United States with 38% of the vote in a divisive three-candidate race. Upon his election, he faced a divided nation. His principal goal as president was to preserve the Union. In 2023 in Lake Forest, we have three candidates vying for the position of mayor. The candidates have very different levels of experience, skills, and goals for the city. My goals are simple, yet consequential. I seek to preserve the integrity of our volunteer form of government and defend it from forces that seek to replace it with a partisan alternative. Lake Forest has the most effective municipal government in the state of Illinois. It is the most responsive and transparent government because of its committed, nonpartisan volunteers. If it is to continue, it is dependent upon a vibrant caucus to recruit, vet, and promote willing volunteers to our boards and commissions. It is my commitment to you that if elected, I will faithfully steward the city of Lake Forest and maintain our tradition of excellence in city governance. I will maintain our financial integrity improve our infrastructure, and preserve our historic character. I will support the caucus and its critical role. Together with you, the citizens, I will preserve our form of government and commit to public safety. Most importantly, I will work with you to restore our faith in each other.
Thank you. And Ms. Beidler.
Let me start by saying I love Lake Forest. I feel incredibly lucky to live here, and it's an enormously special place. I know you feel the same way. I will do everything I can to ensure that this is a thriving community, respectful of everybody's ideas and perspectives. Tonight I ask you what you want for Lake Forest. Do you want thoughtful development that is considered through the lens of historic preservation, but also vibrancy? Do you want a mayor who is committed to ensuring that public safety is a top priority and who understands that we must be proactive in terms of rail freight safety? Do you want more open and transparent government? Do you want a mayor who will focus on maintaining our AAA bond rating while keeping the tax rate the lowest in Lake County? Do you want a mayor who believes it's critical to engage the community so residents have a real voice? Finally, do you want a mayor who brings us together and understands that all residents must feel valued and respected? I want to hear from you. I know that with your input and perspectives, we can make Lake Forest an even better place for all of us to live. Please consider voting for me. Thanks again to the League of Women Voters for the forum, for hosting the forum, and for you all for being here.
Thank you. Mr. Hamann.
Tonight, the 1-minute answers to me are too short. So I'd like to direct you to listen to the Lake Forest podcast or Google Patch Paul Hamann. And there, I believe you'll find more detailed, longer answers to these complex questions. In conclusion, I will always strive to make Lake Forest a better place to live. It's all about climate change and all natural grass. The 3 main reasons I'm running: no more artificial turf, reduce the pension liabilities, and save all trees. In conclusion, I want to buy annuities to remove the possibility of future unfunded pension liabilities from reappearing on Lake Forest balance sheets. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Would the candidates please stand and the audience please stay? No sneaking out. You know I can see every one of you, right? It is so hard these days to throw your hat in the ring, get up in front of people, state your statements. Now is the time. You were so awesome out there. A big round of applause for your 3 candidates. I suddenly realized if I didn't stop clapping, you wouldn't either. Okay, have a seat. Have a seat, candidates, please. Audience members, if you're able, would you please stand up? Everybody in the audience, just please stand up, except those of you whose feet are sore, and I don't feel sorry for you at all because you didn't come down and sit. So, for our country to function, you guys, we have to have an informed and engaged electorate. And you really came out. It's a chilly night, it's a work night, it's a school night, and here you are to hear from local candidates who, by the way, as we all know, have more impact on your day-to-day lives, on your family's day-to-day lives than nationally elected candidates. So candidates, let's applaud our audience.
Thank you.
Okay, sit down. Now, members of the League of Women Voters, and come out from behind the curtain, the mystery curtain, have been back there sorting for me. And also I'd like, probably none of the league members are sitting, put your hand up if you were a card runner. Our card sorters are behind me. Timekeepers, wave, please. So let me tell you something about, You don't even really know what you're applauding for yet. So members of the League of Women Voters of Lake Forest, Lake Bluff got the candidates to agree on this night. I will tell you, I had to change a board meeting because it was one night, then it was another night so that everybody could make it. They arranged the venue. They bought index cards, they showed up with pencils, they've got the time cards down front, they've got a stopwatch, they, harangued a couple of members to be timekeepers, to be sorters, to be card runners. They did publicity, they made our nice name tents, they got the mics, they got me, right? This is a volunteer organization and it's a member organization. And men and women and non-binary people, absolutely everybody is welcome to join the League of Women Voters, and there's information back there because it's an opportunity. Also, you can get moderator training. It's an opportunity to roll up your sleeves and do the hard work of democracy, which is at the grassroots level. So now, really applaud them now that you know they had to find sharpened pencils. Thank you. So I'm hoping that Bev or somebody can come up to the mic and tell us where we'll find the videos or where you'll look for them. Remember, your candidates can stay afterwards. I just want to show you something. 11 questions asked. I don't even know how many here that we didn't ask. We understand that that's the way it happens all the time. So I appreciate it if your question happens to have gotten asked. Friends don't let friends stay home on election day unless they voted early. So if you know anybody who might need a ride or might need a nudge, offer that if you can. And now I think we're going to find out where you'll be looking for the recording so that you can have your friends over for a movie night and have them watch this.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for being here. And if you know someone who couldn't be here, this will be rebroadcast on the League of Women Voters Lake Forest, Lake Bluff area YouTube channels. Just Google that, or easier, lwvlflb.org, and the video will be on the webpage right there for you. So.
Thank you. Thanks, everybody. Let's go drink.